I never thought I'd be writing this, but here I am, a 45-year-old woman, sitting in my childhood bedroom at my parents' house, trying to make sense of how my life turned upside down in a matter of hours. Let me start from the beginning. Last Friday, I was coming home from work, exhausted after a long day at the office. I'm a marketing executive at a mid-sized tech company, and I've always prided myself on balancing my career with my family life. It's not easy, mind you. Most days, I'm up at 5 a.m., squeezing in a quick workout before getting the kids ready for school. Then it's a whirlwind of meetings, presentations, and putting out fires at work, all while trying to keep up with my kids' activities and my husband's schedule. As I approached our house, the one I've lived in for the past 15 years with my husband Tom, 47M, and our two kids, Sarah, 20F, and Michael, 17M, something felt off. The porch light wasn't on, which was unusual because I always left it on when I knew I'd be home late. I tried to unlock the front door, but my key wouldn't turn. At first, I thought I was just tired and fumbling, but after a few attempts, I realized the lock had been changed. That's when I noticed the suitcases and boxes on the porch. My heart sank as I recognized my clothes, books, and personal items haphazardly stuffed into them. I stood there, stunned, as the reality of the situation hit me. I had been locked out of my own home. The home I had helped pay for, the home where I had raised my children, the home that held 20 years of memories. With shaking hands, I pulled out my phone and called Tom. No answer. I tried again, and it went straight to voicemail. I left a message, trying to keep my voice steady. Tom, what's going on? Why are my things outside? Call me back immediately. As I waited for a call that never came, I started going through the boxes. My laptop was carelessly tossed in with some clothes, not even wrapped for protection. I found some of my most personal items, old journals, family photos, even my wedding album, all thrown together like they meant nothing. I picked up a framed photo of Tom and me on our wedding day. We looked so young, so full of hope and love. I remembered that day like it was yesterday, the way Tom looked at me as I walked down the aisle, the promises we made to each other. Where did it all go wrong? After an hour of sitting on the porch, alternating between disbelief and anger, I realized I had nowhere to go. With a heavy heart, I loaded everything into my car and drove to my parents' house. I hadn't lived there in over 2 decades, and the thought of returning as a middle-aged woman whose marriage had seemingly just imploded was humiliating. As I drove, memories flooded back. I thought about the early days of our marriage, when everything seemed perfect. Tom and I met in college. He was a business major, and I was studying marketing. We bonded over our shared ambition and dreams of success. We'd stay up late, talking about the future we'd build together. After graduation, we both landed entry-level jobs in our fields. We were young and in love, working hard during the day and spending our evenings planning our life together. We got married 2 years after college, in a beautiful ceremony surrounded by family and friends. I remember thinking that day that I was the luckiest woman in the world. The first few years of marriage were a whirlwind of excitement and growth. We both threw ourselves into our careers, climbing the corporate ladder. When I got pregnant with Sarah, we were overjoyed. We thought we had it all: successful careers, a beautiful home, and now a baby on the way. But looking back, I can see that's when things started to change. Tom's mother, Linda, became increasingly involved in our lives. At first, I appreciated the help. Being a new mom while trying to maintain my career was overwhelming. But soon, Linda's help started to feel more like interference. She had opinions on everything: how I should feed Sarah, how I should dress her, even how I should balance work and motherhood. I tried to be respectful, but it was frustrating. Tom never seemed to notice how his mother's constant presence was affecting me. As I pulled into the driveway of my childhood home, I saw the porch light flick on. My mom, 68F, opened the door before I even had a chance to knock. One look at my face, and she knew something was terribly wrong. "Emily, honey, what happened?" she asked, her voice filled with concern. I tried to speak, but the words caught in my throat. Instead, I just burst into tears. My dad, 70M, appeared behind her, and without a word, they both enveloped me in a hug. It felt like I was a little girl again, seeking comfort from my parents after a bad day at school. Except this wasn't a bad day, this was my life falling apart. Once inside, sitting at the kitchen table with a cup of tea in my hands, my mom's solution to everything, I managed to explain what had happened. Their faces went from shock to anger to sadness as I recounted the events of the evening. "I don't understand," my dad said, his brow furrowed. "You've been married for 20 years. How could Tom do this?" That's when the floodgates opened, and I found myself pouring out everything I had been holding back for years. The truth was, my marriage had been struggling for a long time, but I had been in denial. I told them about how things had slowly deteriorated over the years. How Tom's mother and sister had become more and more demanding, and how Tom always seemed to prioritize their needs over our families. "Remember when Michael was born?" I said, my voice trembling. I had to fight to take my full maternity leave because Linda insisted that she could take care of the baby while I went back to work. She said it was selfish of me to want to stay home when she was perfectly capable of caring for Michael. My mom's eyes widened. "Why didn't you ever tell us about this?" I shook my head, feeling a mix of shame and regret. "I thought I could handle it. I didn't want you to worry, and I guess I was embarrassed. I thought if I just tried harder, worked more, gave more, everything would get better. I didn't want to admit that my marriage was failing." As I continued talking, I realized how much I had been suppressing. The constant criticism from Linda and Catherine, Tom's sister. The way Tom would always side with them in arguments. The increasing frequency of a boys' nights out that left me alone with the kids. "Last year," I said, my voice barely above a whisper, "I got a promotion at work. It was a big deal, more responsibility, better pay." I was so excited to tell Tom. But when I got home, his mother and sister were there. Before I could even share my news, Linda started complaining about how I was never around, how the kids needed their mother more than they needed the extra money. I paused, taking a sip of tea to steady myself. And Tom, he just sat there. He didn't defend me, didn't congratulate me. He just looked uncomfortable and changed the subject. My dad reached out and took my hand. "Emily, you've always been strong and independent. But you don't have to face this alone. You're home now, and we're here for you." Their unconditional support broke something in me, and I found myself crying again. But this time, it felt cathartic, like I was finally letting go of the facade I had been maintaining for so long. As the night wore on and my parents helped me settle into my old room, I couldn't help but think about Sarah and Michael. They were staying with friends for the weekend, blissfully unaware of the chaos that had erupted. How was I going to explain this to them? Sarah, my beautiful, headstrong daughter. She's so much like me at her age, ambitious, determined, with big dreams. She's in her second year of college, studying environmental science. I've always been so proud of her passion for making a difference in the world. And Michael, my sensitive, artistic son. He's in his junior year of high school, already talking about art schools and his dreams of becoming a graphic novelist. He's always been closer to me than to Tom, often coming to me with his worries and dreams. The thought of causing them pain made my heart ache. They had always been my rock, my reason for pushing through the tough times in my marriage. Now, I felt like I had failed them somehow. Lying in my childhood bed, staring at the glow-in-the-dark stars I had stuck on the ceiling when I was 12, I tried to make sense of my situation. How had I gone from a successful marketing executive with a seemingly perfect family to a middle-aged woman sleeping in her parents' house, locked out of her own home? I thought about all the signs I had ignored over the years. The way Tom's eyes would glaze over when I talked about my work. The separate bank accounts we had maintained, despite my suggestions to combine our finances. The way he'd brush off my concerns about his family's interference, saying I was being too sensitive. I remembered a particular incident from a few years ago. It was our wedding anniversary, and I had planned a special dinner for just the two of us. I had even arranged for the kids to stay with friends so we could have the house to ourselves. I spent the whole day cooking Tom's favorite meal, excited for some quality time together. But then, an hour before Tom was due home, his sister Catherine called. She was having yet another crisis with her boyfriend and needed Tom's help. Without even discussing it with me, Tom went to her, leaving me alone with our cold anniversary dinner. When he finally came home late that night, he couldn't understand why I was upset. "She's my sister, Emily," he had said. What was I supposed to do, leave her when she needed me? That night was the first time I seriously considered that our marriage might not last. But I pushed the thought away, telling myself that all couples have rough patches, that things would get better if I just tried harder. Now, lying in my old bed, I realized how much I had compromised, how much of myself I had given up trying to make everyone else happy. I had lost sight of my own needs, my own dreams. As I drifted off into an uneasy sleep, I realized that tomorrow would bring a new set of challenges. I needed to contact a lawyer, figure out my rights, and somehow find the strength to rebuild my life at 45. But for now, in the quiet of my old room, surrounded by memories of a simpler time, I allowed myself to feel something I hadn't felt in years: hope. Hope that maybe, just maybe, this painful ending could lead to a new beginning. As the first light of dawn crept through my window, I made a promise to myself. No matter what happened next, I would face it with the strength and resilience I had forgotten I possessed. This wasn't the end of my story, it was just the beginning of a new chapter. I thought about my career, the success I had achieved despite the constant pull of family obligations. I had worked hard to get where I was, often sacrificing my own needs for the sake of others. But now, I realized, it was time to put myself first. I thought about my children, my beautiful Sarah and Michael. They were the lights of my life, the reason I had pushed through so many difficult times. I knew the coming days and weeks would be hard on them, but I also knew that they were strong, compassionate individuals who would understand once I explained everything. As I lay there, watching the room slowly brighten with the rising sun, I felt a strange mix of emotions: fear, sadness, anger, but also a growing sense of liberation. For the first time in years, I felt like I could breathe freely, like a weight had been lifted off my chest. I knew the road ahead would be difficult. Divorce at any age is challenging, but at 45, with an established career and nearly grown children, it seemed especially daunting. But I also knew that I had resources: my education, my work experience, my supportive parents, and most importantly, my own inner strength. As I finally drifted off to sleep, my last thought was of the future, not with fear, but with a tentative excitement. I didn't know what lay ahead, but I knew that whatever it was, I would face it on my own terms. Update 1: It's been 3 days since I was locked out of my house. Yesterday, I finally heard from Tom. He texted me asking to meet at a local coffee shop to talk things over. Walking into that coffee shop felt surreal. Tom was already there, looking not nearly as distraught as I felt he should be. "Emily," he started, "I'm sorry about how things happened. I didn't mean for it to go down like that." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Didn't mean for it to go down like that?" I repeated, my voice shaking. "Tom, you changed the locks and threw my things out. How exactly did you mean for it to go down?" He had the decency to look ashamed. I know. It's just. Mom and Catherine thought it would be easier this way." And there it was. The crux of our problems, laid bare in one sentence. What he told me next made my blood boil. Apparently, Linda and Catherine had been planning this for weeks. They had convinced Tom that I was holding him back, that I was too focused on my career and not enough on the family. But why, Tom? I asked, fighting back tears. Why would you listen to them over me, your wife of 20 years? He couldn't meet my eyes. They said you were probably cheating on me. That no woman works late that often unless she's seeing someone else. I was speechless. All those late nights at the office, working hard to provide for our family, and this is what they thought of me? Tom, I said, cutting off his rambling excuses, do you realize that I've been the primary breadwinner in our family for the past 5 years? That my late nights at the office paid for our house, our cars, our kids' college funds? He looked startled, as if this thought had never occurred to him. I want a divorce, I said, surprised by how steady my voice was. I'll have my lawyer contact you. As I stood to leave, Tom reached out and grabbed my hand. Emily, please, he begged. We can work this out. I'll talk to Mom and Catherine. I'll make them understand. I gently pulled my hand away. No, Tom. It's too late for that. You've made your choice, and now I'm making mine. Walking out of that coffee shop, I felt a strange mix of sadness and relief. 20 years of marriage ended over a latte and a blueberry muffin. But I also felt stronger than I had in years. I spent the rest of the day researching divorce lawyers and making appointments. I also called my boss to explain the situation and request a few days off to get my affairs in order. Tomorrow, I'll be meeting with a financial advisor to go over my options. I'm also planning to talk to Sarah and Michael. They deserve to hear what's happening from me, not through the grapevine or from Linda and Catherine. As I sit here in my childhood bedroom, I feel a strange sense of peace. The road ahead won't be easy, but for the first time in years, I feel like I'm on the right path. Thank you all again for your support. I'll update again after I've talked to the kids and met with the financial advisor. Wish me luck. Update 2. It's been a week since my last update, and so much has happened. Thank you all for your continued support and advice. I met with a divorce lawyer, Janet, who is experienced, sharp, and has a good sense of humor, something I desperately need right now. We went over my situation, and she laid out what I can expect from the divorce process. It's not going to be easy, but I feel more prepared now. Janet emphasized documenting everything: conversations with Tom, financial transactions, interactions with his family. I've started keeping a detailed journal. She also pointed out how my financial contributions could impact the settlement. As the primary breadwinner for years, I might have to pay Tom alimony. The irony isn't lost on me. She advised gathering all financial documents, bank statements, tax returns, investment accounts. Janet suspects Tom might try to hide assets, given how his family has behaved. It's surreal to think about Tom doing that, but I never thought he'd lock me out of our house either. The hardest part was talking to Sarah and Michael. I told them together at my parents' house. When I broke the news about the divorce, Sarah burst into tears. Michael sat stone-faced, staring at the floor. But why, Mom? Sarah asked between sobs. I thought you and Dad were happy. I explained about the issues with their grandmother and aunt, and how their father had allowed his family to come between us. I didn't share all details, but I wanted to be honest. Michael finally spoke up. Did Dad really lock you out of the house? When I nodded, his face hardened. That's messed up, Mom. You don't deserve that. His words broke something in me, and I started crying too. We ended up in a group hug, all crying together. We discussed what this means for our family, living arrangements, and how their relationship with their father might change. They were upset, confused, and angry, all valid emotions I'm trying to help them navigate. Sarah worried about her college education being disrupted. I assured her it's a priority we'll figure out. Michael was more concerned about me. Are you going to be okay, Mom? Where are you going to live? I explained I'm staying with their grandparents for now, but will find my own place soon. You'll always have a home with me, I promised them both. After they left, I felt drained but lighter. Their support reinforced that I'm making the right decision. This experience has forced me to reassess my life and worth. For years, I've prioritized being a wife and mother over my own needs and dreams. Now, I'm remembering the ambitious, confident woman I used to be. I'm considering applying for a management position at work that I've always been interested in but never pursued due to family commitments. I've also reconnected with old friends, expanding my support system beyond immediate family. My friend Lisa invited me to her book club, and I'm excited about it. It feels good to do something just for me. Don't get me wrong, I'm still terrified about the future. The thought of dating at 45 and building a new life is daunting. But for the first time in years, I'm also excited about the possibilities. I know the road ahead will be tough. The divorce process is just beginning, and Tom's family, especially Linda and Catherine, won't make it easy. But I'm ready to fight for myself and my kids. To those who've shared similar stories, thank you. Your resilience inspires me. And to those just starting this journey, like me, remember, we are stronger than we know. I'll update again as things progress. Your support means more than you can imagine. Update 3. It's been about 3 weeks since my last update, and I'm amazed at how much can change in such a short time. Thank you all for your continued support and kind messages. First, let's talk about work. Remember that management position I mentioned? Well, I decided to go for it. I spent a week preparing, trying to quell the voice in my head that kept saying I wasn't ready. The old me would have talked herself out of this opportunity. But not anymore. I had the interview last Friday, and it went surprisingly well. I felt a confidence I hadn't experienced in years. Yesterday, I got the call, I got the job. It comes with a significant pay raise and more responsibilities, but also more flexibility in terms of working hours. When I told Sarah and Michael about the promotion, their reactions were mixed. Sarah was thrilled, saying, "Mom, that's amazing. You're going to crush it." Michael seemed a bit worried, asking if this meant I'd be working longer hours. I assured him that while I might be busier, I'd always make time for them. The kids have been adjusting to the new situation better than I expected. We've started having weekly family dinners at my parents' house, which has become a cherished time for all of us to connect. On the social front, I've been making an effort to rebuild my personal life. I joined Lisa's book club, and it's been wonderful. It's not just about the books, it's about connecting with other women and remembering that I'm more than just a mom or an ex-wife. I've also started taking a yoga class twice a week. It's helping me manage stress and giving me some much-needed me time. Plus, I'm meeting new people who know me as just Emily, not as Tom's wife or Sarah and Michael's mom. Last weekend, a group of us from the book club went out for drinks. It was the first time I'd been out socially, just for fun, and I can't remember how long. We laughed, we shared stories, we even danced a little. For a few hours, I forgot about the divorce and felt like myself again. Of course, it hasn't all been smooth sailing. The divorce proceedings are ongoing, and there have been some tense moments. Tom's initial amicable attitude has started to sour, especially since he found out about my promotion. But the biggest shock came when I received a call from Linda, my soon-to-be ex-mother-in-law. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity got the better of me. "Emily," she said, her voice hesitant, I think we need to talk." What followed was something I never expected, an apology. Linda admitted that she and Catherine had gone too far, that they had let their protectiveness of Tom cloud their judgment. She said she regretted her actions and the pain she had caused our family. I'd like to say I immediately forgave her, but the reality is, I'm not there yet. 20 years of hurt don't disappear with one phone call. I told Linda I appreciated her call, but that I needed time to process everything. I decided to tell Tom about the call. His reaction surprised me, he seemed genuinely shocked. Apparently, Linda hadn't told him she was planning to call me. I'm not sure what to make of that. For now, I'm taking it one day at a time. I'm focused on my new job, on being there for my kids, and on continuing to rebuild my life. The call from Linda is something I'll deal with when I'm ready, not on anyone else's timeline. As I write this update, I'm sitting in what will soon be my new apartment. It's smaller than the house I shared with Tom, but it already feels more like home. I'm painting the walls myself, a soothing blue in the bedroom, a warm yellow in the living room. It feels good to make decisions about my space without having to consult anyone else. There are still boxes everywhere, and I know I have a long way to go. But for the first time in a long time, I'm excited about the future. I'm rediscovering who I am outside of my roles as wife and mother, and I like the woman I'm becoming. Thank you all again for your support. Your words of encouragement and shared experiences have been a lifeline. To anyone else going through something similar, remember, it's never too late to start over, to prioritize yourself, to build the life you want. We've got this. Update 4. Hello everyone. It's been about a month since my last update, and I can't believe how much has happened. Your support continues to mean the world to me. The divorce proceedings are moving forward, and it's been a roller coaster of emotions. We had our first mediation session last week. Sitting across the table from Tom felt surreal. There were moments when I caught glimpses of the Tom I used to know, but those moments were fleeting. The mediation was challenging. Tom's lawyer pushed hard on the alimony issue, arguing that I should continue to support Tom financially. My lawyer, Janet, countered with the years I spent supporting Tom's career at the expense of my own. We didn't reach a final agreement, but we made some progress on custody arrangements and asset division. Emotionally, I'm all over the place. Some days, I feel strong and empowered. Other days, the weight of everything hits me, and I find myself crying unexpectedly. I'm trying to remind myself that this is normal, that it's okay to grieve the end of my marriage. On a brighter note, I've moved into my new apartment. The kids helped me move in, and it was a bittersweet experience. But as we set up the new space, I felt a sense of excitement growing. This apartment is mine, and every decision is mine to make. It's both terrifying and liberating. I've been making an effort to create new routines and traditions. Every Sunday morning, I make pancakes, something I used to do at our old house but had gotten out of the habit of doing. It feels like we're building something new and beautiful out of the ashes of our old life. Work has been a welcome distraction. My new position is challenging, but in the best way possible. Last week, I led my first major project presentation to the company's executive board. As I stood there, I realized that this confidence, this sense of accomplishment, is what I've been missing for so long. My social life continues to evolve. The book club has become a highlight of my week, and I've started volunteering at a local women's shelter. It's been incredibly rewarding and has given me a new perspective on my own situation. As for dating, I'm not quite there yet. But I have noticed that I'm starting to look at myself differently. The other day, I caught my reflection and actually liked what I saw, not just my appearance, but the energy I was projecting. I looked confident, happy even. Looking ahead, I know there are still challenges to face. The divorce proceedings will likely drag on for a while, and co-parenting with Tom is still a work in progress. But for the first time in a long time, I'm excited about the future. I'm rediscovering parts of myself that I thought were lost, and I'm finding that I really like the woman I'm becoming. To those of you who have shared your own stories of divorce and rebuilding, thank you. Your courage inspires me. And to those who are just starting this journey, hang in there. It does get better. We are all stronger than we know. Until next time. Emily.